We're about to witness, I might get banned for this, but we're about to witness Ben just inhale the cock and balls of Jordan Peterson live. Ben and Abby are the best at YouTube. We just don't get it. What's Abby doing? What is she up to? I couldn't believe the difference. She's just doing motherhood updates. Ooh, that's fucking terrible though. Hot girl summer is over. Time for classic girl summer. Oh yeah, dude. Oh, she fell off hard, man. Uploading maybe once a week, averaging maybe like fucking 5K, 7K views. These are a little better, but these are, you know, nowhere near the numbers that she used to get. I mean, I know she disappeared for a while while she was pregnant, but I mean, look at her fucking, oh God. Jump scare. I mean, yeah, her fucking 3 biggest videos are all upwards of 1 million. Let's see the classic girl summer. I'm so sorry, chat. I just wanted to get drunk. That's why I brought up Abby. Well, now we're here. Congratulations. And I think this is proof that like there's no reason to like fear signal boosting these people by like making a video. Like people made videos about Classically Abby all the time. They clowned on her, they shat on her, and she still fell off. I don't think there's a lot to gain from being signal boosted by commentary YouTubers as long as they're doing their due diligence and like actually making good points. Not the mama bear shirt. Yeah, you signal boost them to an audience who's already going to dislike and shit on them, and they're not going to go to like wherever else they go to as an audience and be like, this person's pretty good. Am I tripping or her ears stretched? No, she just got hoop earrings in. The like to dislike ratio. I know, I'm surprised.
Classic crew, and welcome to today's video where
the classic crew. Let's go.
We're going to be talking about how to have a classic girl summer. If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values, and I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. If you're not already subscribed to my Substack newsletter, where you'll get—
Oh, she's on Substack. That explains a lot. Why do I taste mayo suddenly? Yeah, we got to drink for Substack. Come on.
Get access to a ton of exclusive content, including my book club, my weekly articles, and my podcast. Make sure to head over to classicallyabby.substack.com. So a few summers ago, there was this concept of a hot girl summer. It was actually started by a song by someone who I've talked about on this channel before, Megan Thee Stallion. And
the fucking disdain in her voice. She pronounces that C a little hard.
The way that dictionary.com defines hot girl summer is feeling confident in who you are and having fun and looking good while doing it.
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah.
The idea of hot girl summer does not appeal to me, but what does appeal to me is the idea of classic girl summer, embracing our classic femininity and
That's right. That's the thing, right? Where it's like you're stuck between like gender norm versus gender norm. She's saying that being like conventionally attractive and being like appealing to the male gaze, if you really want to look at it that way, is not being feminine enough. Like, she's just saying like housewife slave summer.
Embracing our classic lifestyle and bringing that into summertime and taking advantage of it in the best possible way. So today I want to talk about how you can have your classic girl summer and some ways that you can embrace your femininity while doing it. So let's get into today's video. So the first way that you can have a classic girl summer is to dress modestly and classically.
Dude, I think this is part of why she fell off, because all her videos are the same, where she's like, ladies, think about this. I know a lot of you are really into wearing skirts and, you know, embracing the parts of you that you want to show to the world. But instead, don't do that. Thank you so much for watching. Please click subscribe and donate to my Substack. It's just so stupid and repetitive.
So if you're new here, I am a huge proponent of modesty on my channel. I think that it will get you what you want, and it respects your body in a way that really nothing else does. So
what do you mean it will get you what you want? Sorry, that one took me a second. It will get you what you want? What does that mean?
Modest is a very important part of being classic. And I also think that being modest does not mean being frumpy. I think that you should absolutely look stylish and fabulous and feminine while also being modest. Kate Middleton is a really good example of this. She looks absolutely stunning always, and she is a very modest woman. So one of the ways that you can have a classic girl summer is to dress modestly and attractively and classically.
You're really gonna tell me she's like stylish? She's a fucking duchess. She dresses like Hillary Clinton. Yeah, dress white.
So how do we do that in summertime? Because I think a lot of people get really overwhelmed thinking about how to dress modestly in summer without getting overheated. So wearing beautiful dresses. Really, that's what it comes down to. Wearing beautiful dresses, beautiful skirts.
Make sure they don't show any ankle.
Light fabrics, bright colors, and embracing your personality, showing off who you are through your clothing within certain boundaries. So I love the idea that you can express who you are through your clothing. And in doing that,
But not too much. Don't express yourself if I don't like the way you do it. Yeah, she doesn't like that. She just talked about how it's like hot girl summer is bad.
you can actually make yourself look even more beautiful. So find clothes that appeal to you, but that also are within the boundaries of modesty and will keep you cool. So for example, I posted a video on my channel of some dresses that would be good for summertime, but are really modest and still express kind of who I am and what I like. But finding a dress that has a flower print, if that's something you're into, or wearing bright colors, if that's what you enjoy. Finding something that reflects your personality through your clothes. You might be somebody who prefers to not wear prints. I'm somebody who really loves dresses that are in solid colors, but I also have prints in my wardrobe. And I think that embracing classic girl summer is embracing those outfits that make you look beautiful.
Is it just how much I've drank tonight, or is it just she's just fucking saying the same shit over and over again? I want to put her in the microwave / neg. Yeah. Why are we watching this? Somebody brought her up and I wanted to see what she was up to. I love dressing like a whore. Ladies, hide your sinful body summer. All right, this is a video that came out a long time ago and I never even got a chance to watch it. So I wanted to see it. I wanted to freaking look at it. Jordan Peterson's thoughts on transgenderism. I just want to hear this thoughtful, provoking, because conservatives are always talking about having conversations. They always want you to have conversations. Well, let's hear what this conversation is like.
I mean, it's funny because I think that, you know, the issue that you started to become really politically prominent on, which is the Bill C-16 in Ontario. And
the issue that he continuously lied about, implying that people were going to be put in jail for a hate crime if they misgender somebody. Not true. Never happened. No one's been jailed. Not one person. All C-16 did was added transgender people to the list of protected categories under the same guidelines as race, gender, I think even fucking veteran status. Like, doesn't matter. My trans is going to increase 25%.
In Canada, it was federal law.
In Canada,
In Canada, it was federal law. Yeah, this was back in December. This is like right as he started coming back. So he definitely sounds a little weak. Ben is about to suck Jordan's dick. Ben is about to... We're about to witness... I might get banned for this. But we're about to witness Ben just inhale the cock and balls of Jordan Peterson live.
the gender issue.
Yeah.
You know, that's the issue where now the question that's constantly being asked, so why do you even care? Why do you even pay attention? And the
Yeah.
answer is because
I was asked that earlier today.
Oh, really? What did you say?
I'm not letting the cat have my tongue.
Yeah.
It's like it has nothing to do with gender as far as I'm concerned. Or
Has nothing to do with you. And it also has nothing to do with all these fake cafe sounds you put into the background and make it sound like all these people are talking when they're clearly not.
that's peripheral in some sense. So the accusation, why do you care? Fair enough. It's like, you know, in some way, people can go to hell in a handbasket if they're inclined to. Now, I would rather have that not happen, but people are, what would you say, doomed to their own autonomy. But I'm not saying words that other people want me to say.
But you do all the time. I mean, for example, right now you're saying words that Ben Shapiro wants you to say. You say words that fossil fuel companies want you to say. Are you saying that you're only going to say words that people want you to say if they pay you money? Because he's talking about pronouns right now. He's saying, I'm not going to use someone's pronouns if they want me to say them. But for example, he uses Ben Shapiro's correct pronouns. Those are the words that Ben wants him to say. If all of a sudden he started gendering Ben Shapiro as a she, Ben would probably not respond or understand what he's saying. If all of a sudden he started calling calling Ben Jane or any other name that's not his name, Ben probably would be very confused. So every day you say the same, you say words that people want you to say. It's part of being a fucking human being. It's just that you feel a moral responsibility due to your own fucking delusions and your financial incentive that you can dictate what other people's identity is that they never chose in the first place. I came out as trans in high school. My friend's dad kept telling people poetry club turned me trans, but the thing was I founded poetry club. By his logic, I turned myself trans. That's powerful. You refer to me as Shadow the Hedgehog. I have no pronouns.
And the idea of compelled speech, it's like the bill was this much about gender.
Right.
And it was this much
that's
about,
right.
oh yeah, the government's
Wasn't really that much. I don't think it was. I actually don't believe you.
going to tell me what to say. Hey,
But-
now they're regulating what therapists can say.
But
Therapy sessions.
This is
That's always been the case. Therapists and teachers have more regulation on what they can say in the United States and in Canada than most other professions. Foul Out Boy stole my gender. Give it back. But no, it's like a therapist can't, for example, tell anything about their patient history to somebody not involved. There's confidentiality. That's compelled speech. Like, that's not any different. You just don't like it because you get annoyed at fucking non-binary teenagers on the internet because they bully you, rightfully, and you get fucking pissy about it.
This is interesting because to me, the problem with a lot of this is less a free speech issue, even though I'm on the same page with you. And to me, it really isn't.
Canada has no free speech. There's no protected free speech in Canada. They can fucking legislate any kind of speech that they want. They have very similar attitudes to the United States, but there's no guaranteed free speech in Canada. So Ben's kind of dumb.
A fundamental truth issue, meaning that, yeah, you're trying to force me to say something I don't want to say. But to me, the fact that what you're trying to force me to say is so innately opposed to the good is the problem.
The good? The fuck is the good? What are you talking about? You're so stupid. The good? Yo, would she give me the good? Yeah, trans is evil.
Like you could try. I would have objections to you forcing me to say that I like a particular movie, right? It may not be true. I don't like the particular movie. It would be
For the
bad if you
follow.
tried to force me to say that. But the level of passion that I have for issues like this one really go to the fact that I think the fundamental good of humanity relies on basic acknowledgments of
What the fuck was that movie example? He was like in the middle of a thought, then brings up this movie example, and then continues the thought. What the fuck was that?
I would have objections to you forcing me to say that I like a particular movie, right? It may not be true. I don't like the particular movie.
Okay, great. Ben Shapiro doesn't like it when you tell him that he likes a particular movie. Okay, so let's say everybody in Ben's life has assumed for his entire life that he loves this movie, that it's his favorite movie, even though he hates it. He has no connection to it. Maybe he hasn't even seen it, but everybody thinks that he loves this movie. Everybody tells him that he loves this movie, and he finally tells the person he trusts the most in the world, hey, I've never seen this movie. I don't like this movie. And they say, no, you do, actually. You can't tell me what to say. You like that movie. You do like it. It's a little analogous to like something that I think people go through sometimes. I don't really know about stuff like that though. Compelled speech. Shut the fuck up. Fucking fuck you.
It'd be bad if you tried to force me to say that. But the level of passion that I have for issues like this one really go to the fact that I think the fundamental good of humanity relies on basic acknowledgments of biological truth, especially.
Why? Why do we need to acknowledge biological truth? Do we need to acknowledge every aspect of our biology? Because this is the only biological truth that Ben cares about is sex and its relation to gender. It's the only biological truth Ben cares about. What about like the biological truth of blood types? Does anybody here know their fucking blood type? Probably not. Maybe, I mean, some of you with like more health issues definitely do, but some of you, most of you probably don't know your fucking blood type. Why don't we acknowledge that fucking biological truth? It'd be a lot more important than what's in your fucking pants, because the biological truth in reality, you don't know unless you're fucking somebody. It plays no role in greater society what your sex assigned at birth is. And yeah, the biological truth is that trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people are fucking legitimate. That is biological truth, and there's far more empirical evidence to support that than there ever has been for the contrary. Why is he so into trans genitals? I'm assigned evil biological at birth. Like, there's no relevance to the biological truth because in 99% of cases, the 1% being the children that you witness being born, which doesn't happen very often, you don't even know the biological truth. Like, you literally don't know. You can't act as if there's this fucking uniform idea of truth when it's what's in someone's pants, and typically we wear clothes in general. So, like, what the fuck is he talking about? Assigned penis at birth. And yeah, intersex people are outside of this conversation entirely. Conservatives will never acknowledge intersex people. They refuse to because it fucking undermines everything they have to say about gender. They should meet one intersex person. I'm sure they have. And they're like, well, you're an anomaly, even though there's more intersex people than there are genders. For real, why are these people so obsessed? The day I came out in high school, 3 separate guys came up to me to ask about my genitals. I have no fucking clue. It's bizarre.
Especially when it comes to gender. And anybody who's ever dealt with children, I find myself, especially when it comes to, and I think the fundamental good of humanity relies on basic acknowledgments of biological truth, especially when it comes to gender.
I didn't let him finish his dumbass sentence. He's saying biological truths when it comes to gender, which is great because gender is not a fucking biological construct. It's just objectively not. Because in that case, if gender is a biological construct, and I mean, sex is a biological construct in reality, then if they're both biological constructs, then why do we differentiate? When I came out to my mom, she literally asked me if it means I want a dick, as though it's the only thing being trans is. Yeah, that's crazy. No, I think this is fucking bullshit. Like, we can't act like sex and gender are different things and then also be like, no, they're the same thing. Then why? They're not homophones. They're not fucking homonyms. They don't mean the same thing, definitionally. So why do you act like they're interchangeable? He's the type, have you got the surgery? Yeah. I mean, Ben Shapiro could easily be a chaser. We don't know that, but I mean, I also think he's probably sex repulsed or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Hypothetically, they're synonyms, and that's not even true. Basic biology is when I have my cake and eat it too.
And anybody who's ever dealt with children, I find myself getting, if I look at my own political evolution, I'd say that when I grew up in a religious home, so that means
When I look at my political evolution, I find myself caring much more about children than I ever have before. Hypothetically, for the sake of argument, these dudes suck. Yeah, not even hypothetically, empirically.
pretty conservative. And then you go to college and you're living by yourself and you're not married, you don't have kids. You tend to become a little bit more libertarian.
I think Ben went to UCLA for his undergrad, which was in the same neighborhood. I doubt he moved out of home. And then he went to Harvard Law, a very classic liberal institution, Harvard Law, where the fucking Heritage Foundation fucking lives and breathes. Or I'm not the Heritage Foundation, the one that creates the Supreme Court's justices. The Freedom Coalition? What the fuck is it? I don't remember. You guys get it.
Which is like, okay, let everybody do whatever they're going to do and it's not going to bother me. And then you have
What?
kids and you realize
That's
that
what being a
there's
libertarian is, you fucking moron. And he claims to be. He's not.
pool in which we are all swimming. And that pool is going to define...
Virginia.
Exactly. Like my kid, it's going to determine
What?
how my kid lives. And I want my community to reflect some of my values because I don't want my kid to live in the toxic sludge that you are creating for my kid. I don't.
Sorry, the Federalist Society. That's what I was thinking of. Thank you. I don't know what the fuck that Virginia shit was. That was very weird. Yeah, my gender is toxic sludge. Remember the time Jordan Peterson talked porn preferences with his daughter? I don't remember that. That's weird. If he wants a community of similar values, he should become Amish. I don't know what Amish people's take on Jewish people is, but he should fucking go away. Yeah, he doesn't care about kids. He only cares about what his idea of a kid should be. And that goes for a lot of conservatives. They don't actually care about the things they care about. They care about their predisposition of like what they think it should be. They don't care about gender. They care about their interpretation of gender. They don't care about fucking society. They care about the ideal society that they want to create, which involves like murdering immigrants and homeless people. For the sake of argument, Virginia. So weird, man.
Yeah, well, there's
indoctrinating my kids in bullshit about whether
yes, exactly.
a boy can be a
They're not very specific about what they're talking about. Well, what's the indoctrination?
girl,
Really,
a girl can be
people
a
will say, well, I'll exceed, but not for my children.
Yeah.
And that's what Virginia demonstrated. It's like, you can come after me, but you come after my kids, and that's a whole different story.
What?
It's so fundamentally opposed to everything true, and the fact that and that's the insistence. The insistence isn't that people be treated humanely or be treated decently.
Yes, it is. That's what civil rights is. And you can't act as if that's just the case already. You've both made careers off of undermining trans rights, off of dehumanizing and otherizing trans people from an ideological standpoint. You can't you literally can't be the source of massive internet transphobia and also be like, they're already treated normal. They don't want to say transphobic shit with their whole chest. I mean, they do sometimes, though. That's what's weird.
Insistence is that your vision of yourself be reflected by me in defiance of baseline reality and in order to redefine how society as a whole
Well,
works.
a lot of it's murky thinking. You know, if someone
What?
asked me, do I believe that there are gender fluid people? I would say yes.
But only like 3 of them.
And I would say a young man who's gender fluid, I know what he's like temperamentally. He's high in agreeableness. He's high in neuroticism. So he has a feminine
A young man? What?
temperament. He's more interested in people than things.
What?
And he's extremely high in openness. And so his temperament is fluid. He's creative, and so he's one thing one day and one thing the next. And his fundamental temperament is tilted towards the feminine. But that doesn't mean he's not a man.
But femininity means nothing, though. Femininity, and yes, it does mean he's not a man if he doesn't identify that way. And also, yeah, that's one guy. He's like, he's making up a guy, analyzing that guy, and then being like, well, then that's proof. But what about his fucking brain chemicals? What about his hormones that he's naturally predisposed to? Like, there's real science involved in this. Yeah, they're not just like OCs that you're making up. Ben Shapiro will stand his little boy stands against neurovirgin trans teens with less than 100 followers on TikTok and say they're treated great. Yeah, say the world's normal for them. Case study, except there's no case and it isn't a study. Perfect. Yeah, he's also saying emotions are feminine and being creative is feminine.
Exactly.
So so it's murky thinking. So
Okay, so if you have a feminine man and this feminine man is saying, I'm not a man, but I'm also not a woman, what the fuck do you do with that, Jordan? I dare Ben Shapiro to debate a doctor in trans healthcare. He's just gonna fucking move the goalposts and he's going to, try to like piss them off because no fucking trans doctor is like prepared to debate. It has to do with media training. Even I'm not prepared to debate people. That's why I don't do it. Because I can get caught in some fucking rhetorical trap and I'll look stupid. And then that person will like have won the debate when there's no winning. That's also why I think debating is stupid. I think there's like value to it sometimes, but for the most part, it's, I don't know, just a little silly. It's very performative. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, he just talks really fast, tries to overwhelm you, tries to make you upset. And then when you've gotten emotional, then he wins.
That's exactly right.
it's certainly the case that 1 out of 10 women, now it depends on where you put the cutoff, I would say, but you could say with reasonable certainty that 1 in 10 women has a masculine temperament and 1 in 10 men has a feminine temperament. And so that's
Okay, but like, you're not saying anything. Like, yeah, okay, let's assume that's the case. But those people aren't necessarily trans. And the point that they're trying to make is that, oh, well, if one of these kids is in school, trans school, like they all are, public schools are now, then that, like, they have like a different temperament and they're going to be told that they're trans. And it's like, when cis people are told they're trans, they're usually not like super on board with that. You know what I mean? It's not very often like a very fucking quick conversion. There have been cis people that, we fucking researched it last time. There's an old fucking gender studies doctor from like the 1800s or whatever, like the 1940s, who at birth reassigned a cis man's gender, basically after a botched circumcision, did bottom surgery on a baby. And that person knew that he was cis, knew that he was a cis man, but was raised female. Like, you don't just, like, you have to actually be trans to be to fucking transition in 99% of cases. And like, there's this detransitioner rhetoric that's coming out of the right now, and it's very dangerous because the right has been searching for grifters to, be like, oh, well, I detransitioned and this is why it's bad and this is all the bad experiences that I've had, because like trans medical science is so stigmatized here and so under researched and so underdeveloped that of course there are people that have had horrible experiences. Yeah, they keep putting detransitioners on the local news in Ohio. Exactly what I hate about their armchair emotionless tactics. It's so infuriating because they can spew all this bullshit about how trans people are evil and mentally unwell because they don't know any. But for me, you're sitting here saying horrible shit about my friends, expecting me not to get emotional. Yeah. Detransitioners were trying to find themselves, and that's fine. I hate the people putting down trans people. Yeah, and there are plenty of people who have detransitioned who are normal, of course. Don't get me wrong. But the detransitioners that are going on the local news and talking about how horrible and how dangerous this is for kids, that's fucked up. And like they actively have, like they will have blood on their hands. Like everybody who is stigmatizing trans people, like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, I mean, they already have blood on their hands. But the more stigmatization that they add to trans people, the more blood that they have on their hands. For every outspoken, turfy, detrans person, there's way more children normal than trans people. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people. And those people, especially if they're also creative, well, they're kind of at a loss in relationship to what to do with their identity, because they're pulled. First of all, they have a hard time catalyzing their identity. Creative people have a hard time catalyzing it. It's like the definition of creativity. They're protean.
That's an incredibly like unfounded generalization. He's just making shit up because it feels right to say.
And so have been people who play at the edges of gender identity forever. And fair enough. And sometimes that's even admirable if it's done in a sophisticated way. And it's charismatic. So you see it in Mick Jagger, you see it in David Bowie. You
They know David Bowie had sex with men and was like androgynous, you know? Kurt Cobain also cross-dressed. I don't know why you brought up Mick Jagger. I don't know anything about Mick Jagger.
You see it, and you see it in people like Madonna as well, because Madonna had a hard edge, you know, that was very masculine. And all the
Huh? What do you mean Madonna had a masculine edge? Madonna slays. Madonna's weird, though she dates way too young men. I don't even know about that. Is Madonna the one, or is it Britney Spears that like posts her kid drawing like Goku in a Bape hoodie? 1% of people detransition, and of that, the majority of them do for reasons beyond their control, be it money, healthcare, no support, rejection of medication. They wanted kids. It's a very small number of people who say the left brainwashed me into thinking I was trans, and if those people do exist, there's a chance the right has paid them off to grift for them. Absolutely. There's a chance that some of those people are cis and they're just lying and they're being paid to go on the news. And it's like, I don't know if it's controversial to assume that, but like, I wouldn't put it past fucking PragerU to just do that. Like, why wouldn't they? They have no reason not to do that, you know? And fucking local news is not going to do their due diligence and actually research if this person is transitioned because there's so much social stigma around it. And it's like fucking local news. It's so reactionary anyway. They would jump on that the first chance they got. A lot of people who do detransition do it because of the overwhelming transphobia. Lots of people who detransition still identify as trans in some way. They just decided that medical transition isn't for them. Yeah, I know a few people like that who are like non-binary, but they thought they were like female to male or something, you know? Also, some people just detransition because gender and one's experience with is fluid, and there isn't inherently anything wrong with detransitioning. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that there's something wrong with detransitioning. If that's what's right for you and the people in your life, like, of course. And I'm fucking terribly sorry for the people who've done it strictly because of transphobia. Like, that's horrible. But I'm specifically talking about the detransitioners that are going on the news and advocating against trans education and trans research. You know what I mean? Like, that's fucking beyond fucked. I have a friend I went to high school with that posted something on Insta the other day, and he works for PragerU, and I was so heartbroken. Oh, that's awful.
Marvel superhero women have a hard masculine edge. And so we find that...
Huh? Oh my God. Jordan Peterson's idea of masculinity is so funny. Marvel superhero women have a masculine edge. I'm trying to even think of any Marvel women character other than Captain Marvel that's like had her own movie. Like Black Widow? Is she masculine? Really? You're gonna tell me that this is masculine? Masculine. Masculine? Yeah? Yeah, she's a ballerina. Masculine, because she's green. Look how masculine she is. She's picking him up like a baby. Masculine. She-Hulk's not a great example because she's usually muscular and tall, and like that's all Jordan Peterson needs to think someone's masculine, but she's still got gigantic boobs and very long hair and extremely feminine facial features. Like, from a character design perspective, he's just wrong. He's just lying and wrong. Yeah, full face of makeup. Woke moralists will never convince me that those aren't the manliest curves.
charismatic, because those people are also integrated.
No, wait, he's saying that they're masculine because they're charismatic, because the only men can be charismatic.
But the notion that there's such a thing as gender, that's not right. There's variability in personality and temperament.
Jordan Peterson based? Wow.
And the idea that that there's no such thing as biological sex, that's just insane.
No one has said that. No one has said that ever. It would be so difficult to find someone who actually thinks that there's no such thing as biological sex.
It's insanity. They've abstracted gender from sex and then read gender.
What do you mean abstract? They're different things. They're not interchangeable. They never have been. If they were, why are they two different things if they're interchangeable? Like, they don't just, like, they exist as two different words because they're two different concepts. They're not fucking homonyms.
They're back into sex is more important than sex. It's
Well, and then why insist upon the
Yeah, I've abstracted a donut from a bagel.
biological modifications?
right.
If there's no such thing as sex, it's like
No one. A lot of trans people don't you do surgeries because A, it's expensive and it can be fucking hard to do. But B, some people just don't fucking want them.
well, what? Then just act out your role.
Right.
Leave your body alone because it's irrelevant, anyways.
I'm going to give Jordan Peterson a vaginoplasty. It's irrelevant. I'm going to single-handedly trans Jordan Peterson medically, surgically. He thinks people can just be convinced to be trans. Well, let's do it. Let's convince him to be trans. Congratulations, Jane Peterson.
Well, it turns out it's not irrelevant. You have to go through the surgical transformation, which is a pretty dramatic answer to a question that for 99% of people who are ambivalent about their gender identity would be best solved without surgical intervention.
Yep.
And that's not even true. More people need or would be better off with bottom surgery than actually get bottom surgery, I guarantee you. Or top surgery or whatever we're talking about surgically. Or even voice feminization surgery or facial masculinization surgery. Like, there's so many surgeries that can be done to somebody who transitioned later in life. And even still, the majority of people I've ever talked to who have undergone trans surgeries, it took years of like hormonal transition and social transition and saving money. Like, he acts like you could just go to a fucking Walgreens and get it done irreversibly. Can't call him Jordan anymore because that's his dead name. He'll be removed from Twitter. The woke moralists. Also, I hope none of these bitches ever get Botox or hair restoration surgery. Jordan Peterson has gotten hair plugs. Check it out. Look at this. This bitch got hair plugs. This fucker got hair plugs with all this fucking YouTube money. Look at that hairline. That's surgical. That is gender reaffirming surgery, Jordan. Congratulations. Who's this? Why does he look like my name, Jeff? He looks like fucking Scarface. No, not Scarface. He looks like fucking Al Pacino, like old Al Pacino. He looks like Don Cucino. This is such a sad picture. Yeah, look at this fucking hairline. Asshole. The criminal butchers who gave Jordan Peterson more hair. Yeah, he's from Edmonton and looks like it.
And then so now in Canada, because they banned conversion therapy, it's now all of
You can't roll your eyes at that.
And then so now in Canada, because they banned conversion therapy, it's now all affirmation therapy.
Right.
There's no such thing as affirmation therapy.
Right. No,
What do you mean? That's not true at all. How do you know so little about like the trans experience when you fucking built a multiple, like almost a decade-long career, like trying to undermine it? Oh yeah, they're making out with their eyes right now. Yeah, banning torture? What the fuck? Yeah, Jordan Peterson be like, let's bring back the fucking Canadian Indigenous schools. They banned those. I don't know why.
It's insane. I mean, the semantic game that was used in order to say, well, conversion therapy, which was at one time using electric shock to treat homosexuals.
Yeah.
And still is in some cases in the United States, by the way. They're talking about Canada, but it's still a thing here. Mike Pence oversaw conversion therapy of that kind.
And saying that that's the same thing as you have a gender-confused 12-year-old.
Look, I had a 14-year-old kid who was a client of mine, and he was in the mid stages of puberty. He was a pretty creative kid, agreeable kid as well, right? And that's important. So he had
That's important because it makes him feminine.
a bit of a feminine temperament. That also
I was joking, asshole.
meant he could be pushed around fairly easily. Well, there was an aggressively gay guy in his school who was hitting on him and trying to convince him that he was gay. Well, he didn't know. So he wanted to talk to me about it. It's like, well, I was going to tell him. What the hell do I know about this kid?
Exactly.
You know, and I wanted to hear what his problems were and how it might be sorted out, what he wanted. And
Jordan Peters is the worst person to ask, like, do you think I'm gay? Because of course he's going to say no. He doesn't want you to be.
Like that's what you do in therapy, is you help people sort out their problems. Now this idea is you come to me with an axiomatic claim, whatever it is about your identity, and my job is to rubber stamp it. It's like, I'm not a therapist then. So this is not only insane, this insistence. Like I like to think of truth, untruth, and anti-truth, right? And the notion that therapists affirm is an anti-truth, because look, let's say you come to me and you say, you have a proposition about yourself, and I say, no, I'm your therapist. No, that's wrong. It's like, that's not good therapy. But neither is you have a proposition about yourself, and you're disturbed enough to come to a therapeutic session, and I say, yes, you're right. It's like,
But what if they are right? Like, my therapist has said you're wrong about certain things and you're right about certain things based on her observation of me. They are in love. This is very romantic. Yeah, he's just trying to say that being trans or being queer is a delusion.
like, I don't know if you're right. And if you're so right, why are you here? Like, what are we talking about?
What? If you're so right, why have you sought therapy? That is absurd. That's so fucking stupid. Yeah, Ben mirroring the body language. The camera stops at the knees so you can't see the footsie play. But like, okay, like trans people have to go through a lot of counseling in most cases to transition. But imagine being a fucking therapist and not knowing that, being a therapist that's explicitly anti-trans and not knowing that, and then being a therapist who's explicitly anti-trans, who doesn't know that, who thinks, if you're trans, why are you coming to me to ask about it? Just go and be your little trans. But also, it's dangerous to be trans without consulting somebody. He just doesn't have the fucking ability to help trans people because he hates them.
You're already right.
It's a destruction of basically the only form of therapy that we know to work.
Yes, it
Cognitive
is.
behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
It's all about saying that
so are the rest of them. They're all this is one of the things that's interesting about clinical psychology. Every single school of psychotherapy is predicated on the idea that free expression of thought or the free transmutation of behavior is curative. And it's true with cognitive behavioral therapy, just like psychoanalytic therapy. It's all the same thing. And also the other axiom of therapy is voluntarily expose yourself in measured doses to what you're afraid of. And so that's an interesting thing, because the psychoanalysts believed when the behaviors first came up.
Like, exposure therapy can work, but like only for certain things. Like, what are you talking about? Like, expose yourself to dysphoria until you get over it? Is that really what you're saying right now?
With exposure therapy, they had it formulated wrong. They thought you learned to be afraid. So you're normal, and then something hurts you, and then you learn to be afraid of it. That's wrong. You're always afraid, except when you learn not to. So they had it exactly backwards neuropharmacologically, and it really matters. This matters. That doesn't mean you can't learn some fears. You can.
Yeah, they put you in a room, you watch 10 hours of Blair White. I don't think I'd ever get over that fear.
But mostly you unlearn terror, right? So children are afraid to get away from
Ben does not know what's happening. Look at his eyes. He's trying to follow this fucking gobbledygook, but he can't. Yeah, neuropharmacologically. Sure.
from their mother. It's because they're afraid of the entire world. Well, you have to learn how not to be. And you don't learn that by habituation, because that was the idea. So you take someone who's afraid, they've been conditioned to be afraid, you expose them to what they're afraid of, and then you have them do relaxation exercises so they counter condition. Well, then it was discovered, and they don't have to do the relaxation exercises. It's like, oh, well, it still works, just exposure. It's like, well, they get less afraid when you expose them because they're.
What the fuck does this have to do with the story he told about the kid being gay, about being trans? Like, what? We're talking about exposure therapy, which is not related to any of what we were talking about before.
Fear habituates. Like, so then the psychoanalyst said, well, if they get less afraid of that particular thing, the symptoms are just going to substitute, because that fear of an elevator, say, was reflective of the deeper fear of death. Had a client I exposed to an elevator, the doors open, she said, that's a tube. It's like, and her fantasy about the elevator was, it was a place she was going to die in of a heart attack. Well, people were discomforted and, what would you say, made contemptuous of her foolishness while she was suffering and dying. So social alienation and death, that was the elevator for her. So we expose her to the elevator. What does she learn? Not to be afraid of the elevator. No, no, no. she learns she can tolerate those fears. She learns to be brave. And so the psychoanalysts were they were diametrically
What? Okay, great story, asshole. What are we talking about right now?
wrong, because if you expose someone to anything they're afraid of, effectively, they get less afraid of everything, right? And so that's partly why.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the moral of that story. I don't think people categorize things that easily. Conquering one fear conquers all fears. No. It might make other fears that are less relevant less impactful, but I don't. I'm using 100% of my brain. Yeah, I'm really trying hard to understand this fucking alien.
Psychotherapy is curative in that manner, is that people discover that they're bigger than their fears. They don't discover that the fears are trivial.
I think that the cult of authenticity is going to be the destruction of all psychotherapy, and then
Ben's like, come on. We gotta continue the transphobia talk. What is this about fear?
because if the cult of authenticity is that your true authentic feelings are what makes you you, then the attempt to make you brave in spite of your fears is a suppression of your fears. It's almost like a Freudian analysis of you're suppressing your sexual desire, and this
Yeah, no one's afraid to come out. No one's afraid of that.
is not full authenticity.
Yeah, right. Why isn't the fear you?
Right, exactly.
The authentic you.
Exactly, and I think that
What?
that's kind of where we're going. It seems
If the fear of you being if you have a fear of being authentic, which many trans and queer people do, if the fear that you have is of yourself, of your authentic self, then why wouldn't you expose yourself to your authentic self? They're saying like, no, don't be authentic because then you won't learn to be afraid. Because then you're not going to be able to expose yourself to your fears. Ben talks like a human fruit fly. He looks like one too.
like the
Yeah, well, so this movement towards unity that we were talking about, this is a place
Yeah,
I think
fuck
where,
that.
like, informed liberals and conservatives could meet. It's like, well, there is this authenticity, let's say, and drive for adventure. And you see that elevated to the highest place in some sense in the more careless Disney movies. But the full manifestation of that in an integrated sense is the drive towards authenticity inside this.
Thank you for being a beacon of light. I'm so glad you and this community are the opposite of these two crazy men and the people that follow them. Unfortunately, I know people who think like this in my real life. I love all of you, and I'm glad there's a space where I feel safe and recognized. Thank you so much for being here. We're glad you're here. All right. Okay. Here's the new rule. If somebody uses the stick bug channel points, it's expensive, and there's a 2-minute cooldown. But if somebody uses it, I will skip 30 seconds of whatever video we're watching. Okay? Someone's got to stick bug me though.
It has to be, because otherwise it's disuniting. It causes fragmentation and chaos. And so it has to be subordinate to a higher order end. And then you might say, well, what
No!
is that? Part of that's the
Fuck!
reciprocal. Some for you, some for me. So
that's great.
So he's
All right,
established
that's
an
30
accord with the
seconds.
tradition that gave birth to him already. He's revitalized that. So when he wakes up, he's not free. He doesn't have any strings on him anymore, but he's already existing in a harmonious relationship
He's still talking. We skipped 30 seconds and he's still talking.
with his father, which is a big deal. And one of the lovely things about what happens to me as a consequence of my lectures is that lots of fathers and sons come up to me and say, we've really worked out our relationship. So, and they're
Wow.
both like, you've never seen
You gonna cry?
smiles like that. Say something. I saw it on the street and to me.
Little bitch.
I taught fathers and sons how to hate trans people together. It's beautiful.
Be told that, to see people so joyful about that, because it's their heart desire, you know. And that's that integration of that drive to autonomy with the family, with the father, with the mother, with the broader community. All that has to be in a higher order unity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
That's the conservative insistence, right?
Exactly. Is that there are these, the wall, as you said before, the walls have to exist. You can have autonomy, but the autonomy has to exist within the walls. And then once you let the autonomy or the rationalism destroy all the walls,
Well, there's
no
no
place for it to
autonomy
sit.
without the walls. There's
Right.
just chaos.
Huh? Okay, cool. Glad it ended. I'm glad it's over. What did we learn? Ben is so upset. Ben barely spoke. Ben barely could get a fucking word in with this weirdo. Yeah, really feminine of him to cry about his feelings? No, but when my heart desires is not being misgendered, I get hate crimes, yeah. I learned to expose myself to trans people so I can fight my fears. I love that Jordan is one of the few person that Ben actually allows to talk over them That's a sentence. This professor is so wise and I could listen to him for hours and hours. I love the idea that Ben Shapiro has they, them pronouns. These really were just Jordan Peterson's thoughts on transgenderism. Jordan Peterson's very articulate. The high level of perfection at which he explains complicated subjects is impressive. This sounds like someone typing trying to do a Jordan Peterson impression. The level of perfection at which he explains complicated subjects. Keep going. Keep using those syllables.